Brilliant. Okay. Good afternoon, everybody. My name is Paul Jordan, and this week I have the pleasure of interviewing a lovely lady called Angela Perry, who is a journaling mentor. So, Angela, hello, how are you?
Hello, hello. How are you?
I'm good, thanks. It's nice to have you here today. So, I'd like to ask you a few questions, if I may, because I'm really interested to hear all about you. So, I'm going to start with the first question. If you just bear with me 1 second.
Yes.
Sorry, I've just got rid of an alert on my phone, which I'm just going to put my phone on silent. I meant to do that before I came on. That will get edited out. Don't worry. So, Angela, tell me, if I was a newbie at journaling, what would be the 3 tips that you would give me to get started?
Oh my gosh. The three tips that I would tell you, if you were absolutely new, is first and foremost is start. I find it oftentimes when I'm talking to people and I'm getting to know people, and they are usually astonished or admire the fact that I journal. And I'm like, it's not a lot to it, but it's just the fact that I started. I would say start and not be afraid of whatever you put on a paper. So starting allows you to push past the fear of I'm letting my thoughts out of my head and bringing them to real life through paper. The second thing would be to know that your truth will absolutely set you free. And when I say that, oftentimes we think that if I write this out, that means I can't change it, or it means it's permanent, or um, whatever tragedy or triumph that's happened that you're deciding to write about, or even just to express, I'm tired today, that you have, now that you've written it out, you have this opportunity to change it or enhance it or be in love with whatever it is that you expressed. But like I said before, first and foremost, get past the fear and write it out. Don't be afraid of what you write. And the third tip would be, I said it wasn't permanent, but the third tip is you're not writing a book. So don't put all the pressure of everything and what people put on TV, or you don't have to be Aristotle. Like, this is not this is not up for, the World Peace Award. It's yours. So starting it, not being afraid, and knowing that no matter what I put on this paper, I have the luxury, the I can change it. I can use so many other words to fill that in, but you can change what you put on your paper. If you don't like it, then do some affirmation, say some things, think some things, go walk in the sun, go look at a funny movie and brighten your mood. But know that it's not permanent. Nothing is permanent. The only thing that's permanent is life and death. So in between that, you can change that. You can make it the best that you can. So yeah, those are my 3 tips. Start. That's the
Yeah, yeah,
one.
yeah.
Just start, just write.
Sounds good. I mean, do you think, I suppose it varies from person to person, but is there a best time of day to write, like in the morning or the evening or at lunchtime, or what would you say?
Uh, because when I read, I don't know if anybody reads the Bible, but when reading in Proverbs, it often tells us that writing and getting your thoughts out is best before the dew. So before the dew is, early in the morning while the ground is still wet and your thoughts are at its freshest. Now,
Mm.
everybody's thoughts aren't as fresh. We have some night owls and we have, morning owls. I think according to statistics, it's like 75% of people clocks are really like night owls. Not 75, 25. So if you're not that person and you're like the morning dude, I'm just I'm just laying down. That wouldn't be your freshest time. But for the other 75, it would be because it often is when the thoughts start flooding in from your sleep,
Yeah.
and you can write those thoughts out at the clearest, like at the clearest capacity. It's clear,
Yeah.
it's not diluted by Facebook and phone calls, and it's you, your thoughts, writing it out. So I always recommend the morning for that person, whether you're a morning person or not, but when you wake up to actually get those thoughts out.
That makes perfectly good sense to me, because your brain, when we go to sleep, part of our sleep is to actually process the day's events and put things into place.
Yep.
And I'm thinking, when you wake up, the things that are on your mind are the things that your brain has put on your mind, because it's dealt with all the thoughts from the previous day. So if you're thinking about things, they're there in your mind now for a reason, because your mind has put them there. And as you say, it's the freshest part of the day. Our brain is at its best. So that, yeah, I would completely, that would suit me as it, well, it does. That's how I do it.
Yeah, it's huge. Like I do an exercise. Um I made a video on YouTube about it, but I do an exercise where I kind of like guide you through a night dump so that at night it's a twofold. At night you get to dump all your day's thoughts. Dump it out, put it on a notebook, and now when you're sleeping, you have the ability to clearly dream. You have the ability to even rest better. Scientists say that when you do it, it relaxes your body more, and it puts you in what is it, an hour, usually hour and a half of that when you go down to the third level of dreaming stage.
Mm, yeah,
um I can't remember the name of it, but when you get to that level, it gets you there faster because it's not, your brain isn't trying to process everything from the day, because you've allowed yourself to write it right before you go to bed. And then when you wake up, your thoughts are whatever you dreamed about. You
mm,
probably slept a little better, and they're very clear. So
yes,
now you could pick up the notebook and begin to, oh, well, okay, now I really know what I want to do. Okay, that was nonsense. I don't know why I was still thinking about that yesterday. Like you can digest those thoughts of yesterday that are kind of mixed in, and now you have a clear brain. You have wrote your journaling for the morning, and now you can process it at a better, more clearer rate. So yeah.
mm. Makes a lot of sense. No, I like the sound of that. That makes sense to me completely. That's the way I do it, to be honest. And yeah, it's good.
Yeah, I had an aunt do it the other day, and she was like, I actually rested better. I was like, yeah, that's what they say happens. So yeah.
It's good, isn't it? Because there's something about, it's very cathartic when things are in the mind. I suppose we worry that we're going to forget about them and they circle around and they come
Mhm.
back. But once they're committed to paper, we can kind of release, because we know we've written them down. They're not going to disappear. They'll be there in the
Nope.
morning or in the, and it's just, you just know that I'm not going to forget it, and it's out
Yeah,
there and it's down and I can let go. So it's very
let
healthy
it
to
go.
let it go. It's really good. Good.
I like that. Let it go.
Yeah. Yeah. It worked for me, because I know that, I have a little book by the side of my bed. And if I
Mhm.
do wake up with a thought, and it might be something, oh, I must remember to do X, Y, Z,
Yep.
or it might be an idea, it might be anything. But if I write it down, I just feel that I can go back to sleep knowing that it will be remembered in the morning, because it's there on
Yep.
the paper.
It's on the paper.
Because when I'm in bed, I think, oh, will I remember that? Will I remember that? And it just goes round and round and round, and it's exhausting.
Yes.
Oh,
You're supposed to be resting and rejuvenating your body cells, and they trying to capture a memory,
yeah.
and it's you end up being more tired than before you went to sleep.
I know with me, when that happens, my mind is like a wasp's nest. It's like it's all these things, and oh, writing
Yes.
it down just, oh, very good.
Yeah.
Okay, right. Next question. Sorry, do excuse me. Just need to cough there. Um, So what are some of the common challenges that people face when they first start to journal, and how would you help them overcome those?
The challenges that most people face is they oftentimes they're scared of their thoughts. So I think I said it earlier, is being scared of the thought becoming reality is a fear that a lot of people hold on to. And I love to guide the person through it, not in a therapy type of way, but in a self-discovery type of way. So to sit with you, the pen, the paper, and God is my foundation. And I always recommend, how did you get here? Why did you why do you make the decisions that you make? And when you begin to ask the seven whys, the why, the why, the why, and you keep asking yourself why, you come to a stop where most of the time it's childhood issues, or it's present issues that you didn't even know was an issue. Like, well, why do I feel this way? And it's like, oh, because my grandmother used to cook me breakfast, and when I went home to my mom, she never did it, and I didn't know that that made me feel unloved. And by the time you get to the seventh why, you discovered, oh, I didn't even know that was an issue. I don't even remember that, but it's so far buried that when you begin to write it out and you think, it's like, oh, the answers really they're really inside of you.
Yeah.
And it makes you bring them out. Um, and knowing that, I'm super intentional about making sure that you're ready for what comes out. Some people are not ready. We're probably not at any given moment. Like, some people say, well, I'm ready to have a baby. And it's like, are you really ready for all of that pain? But the other side of that is beauty, and it's joy, and it's peace. So where you might not be ready, I encourage you to envision yourself, what you look like, what you want to feel like, what you expect to get out of this journey. The journey of journaling, on the other side of it, what does it look like when you sit with yourself for weeks at a time and you really discover who you are and what you want through pen and paper? What else could you conquer? The sky's the limit.
Yeah.
So being able to face those challenges head on and committing to yourself, committing to, I am going to do this because nobody else can do this for me.
Sure.
So that's kind of how I recommend you to do it, is to be fed up enough that you're in a, I hate to say it, but you're fed up enough that it's a life or death situation, because we know what stress and anxiety causes: heart
Mm.
attacks, strokes, diabetes, bad food, bad friends,
Yeah.
you name it, it's the root cause of the issues that you hold within. So now it's like, well, I have an attitude because I don't like people. Well, why don't you like people? You're a person, right? Yeah, but I like myself. Are you sure you like yourself? So now you're asking yourself these questions, and you have no choice but to answer them because you've been avoiding them for so long.
Mm.
So to envision yourself on the other side is how you beat the challenges of not wanting to know. Just ask yourself.
Very deep stuff, isn't it? Very deep.
Yes.
Yeah. Very
Yeah.
therapeutic. Because I
It's
think,
been around for ages for a reason.
yeah,
Like, it's
I
not
think
no.
because quite often, I say quite often from my own life experience, I think that people people have issues and they
Mhm.
get buried deep away and they get suppressed and they get buried so deep inside they try to forget them, but that it's like a little toxin. It's just still leaking that toxin into the
Yep.
system. They forget it's there. They just suppress it and try and put more soil on top of
Stuff
the grave. And
on top of it. Yep.
doesn't work because until you get it out and gone, it's just going to carry on polluting
Yep.
and so journaling, I suppose, is quite therapeutic because you're looking
Yes.
at thoughts, and I think in there's one thing where they call it chunking down because you ask one question,
17 o'clock,
and then you have another question. You say, well, why is that? Yeah, but
Mhm.
why is that? And okay, but why is that? And you get to the end of the road where you can't ask any more questions because you've really finally got there. And I suppose, yeah, no, I find this really interesting because it's very spiritual, very, very deep with what you, and also do you, in terms of how people journal, do you have a preference between someone typing up notes on a document or using a pen and paper? What are your thoughts on that?
Um, I personally like pen and paper. I know a lot of people do typing as well when they're expressing their thoughts in this manner, but I like pen and paper because it slows you down.
Yeah,
It makes you pause and stop. Where when you're typing, you can type, you can skip a thought, you can in place, like there's so much speed in typing, but when you stop and you're writing, it it causes you to initially slow down. And then the reasons behind the pen and the paper and the I believe when they talk about the actual therapeutic side of your hand going along the paper. Um, I've read some studies on that, but I recommend pen and paper because of the slowdown. The whole
yeah,
purpose of this is for you to slow down and be one with who you are, like who God created you to be. I want you to stop in that moment and think about that. Um, as you know, there's people that pass every day and they never live their full potential.
mm,
They don't know. They always live their lives according to someone else's needs and wants and desires, but they never stop think, man, I'm amazing at this, or I can play the piano, but I chose not to actually like play it for myself and enjoy it and let other people hear the music inside of me. I read a book. Oh my goodness, what is the name of the book? I've read it so many times, and over the years, um, it lets me know, it talks about God being a creator and he created creators. And so the things that we do outwardly, if you're an artist, if you're a webinar expert, if you're the stoplight creator, like that's your duty to create.
okay,
You've created these things that come from within and now you share them with the world. And so the world gets to benefit from you being a creator. But if you're constantly submerging in your creativity, that means that no one else gets to enjoy these things.
okay, makes sense.
So it's knowing that when I write down my thoughts, I give myself permission to create. I un I no longer, the thought comes in, I write it out and it's not swirling around in my head.
Yeah,
I've put it down and I could come back to it a year from now. I could come back to it next month. But we couldn't listen to Michael Jackson's old music if he never wrote it out.
so true.
we could we couldn't.
Yeah,
So that's the importance of when it comes, you write it. It comes, you write it, because it's not just for you, it's for everybody else to enjoy at certain times as well.
I
So,
like what you were saying about using pen and paper, because for me personally, that's my preference. And I've read a little bit about the psychology of when we're writing, we're using our different motor skills as opposed to kind of pecking away on a keyboard.
mhm,
I think if we look back in time, our ancestors, they wrote with a quill pen on parchment and other mediums, but it's always been kind of, writing in some form has been in our history for thousands of years. So it's the natural, it's kind of almost built into us because we've been doing it for so
yes,
many generations, whereas typing is very artificial, it's very new, it's not natural, and it's a different sensory experience. I think there's a much more spiritual connection between the pen that moves across the paper and the way that we're controlling it and the way the words flow out of the pen in a way that it just doesn't happen on a keyboard. It's just a different experience altogether.
yes.
All right, next question. So Angela, I'm really interested to know what inspired you to start journaling and teaching others how to do it.
Um, I started journaling almost probably over 3 decades ago. And the reason that I started journaling was because I was going through a season of depression. I was young. Um, I think I had already entered into college. So I started college at 17. So it was like getting ready to turn 18. And I was going through depression, separation anxiety, and all the things that come with new environments. And I um, I had attempted suicide, and I knew at that point that I had to do something. I couldn't proceed at the rate I was going at such a young age. And um, I began to write my thoughts out. No one necessarily told me. I did go to therapy at the time. I didn't go to therapy until years later, but I began to write, and I would just talk to myself as if I'm writing to God, like, oh, let me tell you what happened. Da, da, da. So I'm writing these stories out.
Wonderful, wonderful.
And it became an opportunity for me to truly begin to express myself. So not to say that I couldn't express myself to my classmates and my roommates, but it was like no judgment here. And so I began that journey, and it took me through, oh my gosh, so much trauma, so much grace, so much. I've written things of joy that have come to pass. I do this thing where it's called vision journaling, and I actually took the time one year and wrote a description of what I wanted my house to look like. And I wrote from the countertops to the paint color on the walls and what I wanted my carpet to feel like. It wasn't just like the visual, it was my feeling, what I wanted to hear in the atmosphere, what I wanted to smell. So I wrote it out as if I was presently there, and I was really detailed. And I wrote out the experience. I did it for a couple of weeks, closed the book, and tucked it away. Well, almost a year and a half later, um, we began to start house hunting. And I was unsure of what we were doing. I didn't know if I qualified, and all the ifs, thens, and buts and maybes. Well, we went searching, and by the time we got to the third house, um, I knew that it was the house that I had wrote in my journal.
Wow.
From the this one specific was, I am a stickler because I worked in construction. So I know how to lay tile, paint walls, like nothing new to me. Well, I did not like the grainy granite countertops. because you get all these speckly colors of rocks. And I was like, I do not like that. But hey, if the client wanted, this is yours. But I didn't want it personally for myself. And I wanted the long, veiny rock veins through the rocks. And so when we walked in and I saw the kitchen countertop, I was in awe because I had wrote that because everybody else's house that we had seen already had the regular granite countertops. And this one was not only the veiny, but it was white and gray. And the
Oh,
color of the walls were gray. And I was just like, oh my gosh. And what I found out during this experience was I left some details out.
okay. Okay.
My husband wanted a big backyard, and I didn't involve him in my vision of having a
Oh,
big backyard.
oh, okay.
So the yard was kind of small, and he was like, I was like, but this is what I wrote. So he was just like, okay, we can do this. And I was like, okay, because the next house I want a pool inside the basement. And he's like, okay, so this won't be the final house. I said, no, this won't be the final house because I really do want an indoor pool. He's like, okay. So, but it was mind blowing that I use journaling in so many different stages of my life. And now I look back and it still amazes me when I hear people do things that I suggest to them, or I walk a client through something that they get. I wouldn't say instant gratification because the night one is usually an instant gratification, but it still's like, oh my gosh, like it doesn't, like it still gives me like the goosebumps on the inside
Yeah,
because
I bet.
I know it works for me, but for me to properly convey that to somebody else and they do it and it works, it makes me feel really good. And it lets me know that I am the creator of what I'm doing. So it lets me know like you're creating the right things. You're
Mm,
creating the journals and the coloring books and the pieces and their tool. They're just tools, but it's tools that you can use to help yourself. Self discovery is that's my thing. Do you know what you want? Not what everybody else want, but do you really know what you want? And so the only way to know that is you got to discover it is what he want. So
wow.
yeah, I do. I love the aha moments people get.
Yeah. So I'm really interested because I didn't realize that journaling can cover so many different aspects of the mind in terms of getting stuff out and trying to be cathartic and deal with things, but also almost like a vision board, I suppose, kind of if we have a
Yes,
vision, something writing down our vision. So that's really interesting. And
yes.
it's amazing to see that so you said it was the third house that kind of matched some of the criteria that you'd written down. That's incredible. Wow. Yeah. I remember.
It was, I mean, journaling is a reflection tool, it's accountability, discovery, like it makes you accountable to who you want to be. It's, oh, I want to become this, grand singer. Well, what's the plan to get there? You think it's just gonna fall out the sky and the music was he's gonna come, the music director is gonna come knock on your front door and tell you to come outside and sing for him? No, what's the plan? Have you written it out? Have you explored all that you know? Have you researched it and then wrote out what it is that you wanted out of the research you found? Like, have you talked to people? It's it is a tool that I have so many, but I have them for different categories and areas and all of that. I think I'm gonna get a rocket. I think it's called a rocket notebook because I have that many. I think I have just as many journals and notebooks as I do books. And I'm like, oh my gosh. I
Well,
think it was. it was a famous speaker, and I can't recall his name. He goes, he was a salesman, he's passed away, and he talks about his journals would be worth millions. And
Okay.
when I heard him say that, it made me think. He said, these are all my thoughts. He said, I come and I teach you how to become the best salesman and X, Y, and Z. He said, my journals, I have a library full of $1 million ideas in here.
Mm,
And when you look at it in that manner, it's like, yeah, your thoughts are actually precious. They're downloaded to you. You get the thought, you
yeah.
express it, and now it's what you do with it when you get the thought. So yeah.
Interesting idea. Mm.
Yeah.
I'm just trying to think because that story sounds familiar to me, and I'm
And I can't think of his name.
yeah, me neither. I'm going to be doing some research myself later on. I'll find it. You've got my interest going now. So Angela, tell me. I mean, I found that very interesting. But
Jim Rohn.
Jim Raw, yes, Jim Ron, yep. Because
Yep.
yeah, he's got there's still a Facebook group that's very active as well. There's a lot. He's got a lot of fans.
Really?
Yeah, I think so. I think I might be in it, but he's still his memory lives on. He's got a big following.
Wow. I didn't know that. I have to look that up.
I'll dig out the details. I'll send them to you later on.
Yeah.
But if people, I'm sure a lot of people watching this will be very inspired by what you have to say. And I know from my own experience, journaling is so healthy and so helpful in many aspects of life. But many people, as you say, they don't know how to get started, not quite sure what to do. If people wanted to get in touch with you, how would they go about doing that? What's the best way?
The best way is, I guess the easiest messaging would be always 2 L's, Angie underscore on Instagram.
Yeah.
That's the website as well, always Angie.com. But the easiest way is to just DM me if you ever have any questions. My YouTube is always Angie on YouTube as well. And I'm constantly, like this year, I'm on a mission to finish flooding my YouTube channel with all the ideas. Because yes, I teach people personally in group settings how to journal. I take them through a 6 to 8 week process of brain dumping, writing their thoughts out, getting through their thoughts, what's next, accomplishing their goals. So I take them through the foundation of creating an amazing journaling habit. But that's an accountability part. So most people are like, I don't need that much, or they're like, that's too much. And I'm like, well, it's for the person that's on the edge. So if you're not on the edge, it might be too much. But the person that is, they like, I need help, I can't breathe. So that's where I personally come into play. But I've made it my mission to make sure that my YouTube channel begins to flourish with all the information that I've learned over the years. Um, when you should journal, why you should journal. Like I have an outline. So every day for the next couple of months, not every day, but once a week, I'm pushing out videos that could pertain to journaling, the habits of it, the history of it, the simplicity of it, because I think we use it for granted. We use pen and paper and your thoughts as if it's supposed to come. And when you ask the person that doesn't remember or that can't create or that has a debilitating disease that doesn't allow them to create, they had an opportunity to, they probably tell you they wish they could trade their life in just to create again, just to think, just to process again.
Sure. Yeah.
So not taking the opportunity that you have at today, at the present time, to begin a new habit that's not just, it's healthy. It's a healthy habit that everybody should create.
Definitely. I'd agree with that.
So being able to do it from a young age to expressing yourself to the time that you leave, you have stories to tell, you have stories to create. And you can do that yourself through journaling.
Sounds good. Well, Angela, it's been a real pleasure to talk to you today. I've really enjoyed the conversation. I'm sure the viewers will find it very interesting as well. So thank you for your time. It's been a real pleasure. And we'll speak again in the future.
Thank you. It was enjoyable. It was a pleasure.
Bye for now.
Thank you. Bye.
Brilliant. I think that went really well. Hope you enjoyed it.
Yeah.